Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about my favorite budget deck options of the current time. Basically, we've had 3 rarity collections in the last however many months, and it's basically made so much stuff cheap and affordable, which is a step in the right direction basically. There's of course still a lot of expensive cards that are in the meta right now, like Fuwalos, Dominus Impulse, Perulia, like kind of the stapley ones, but really there's always some kind of staple that's kind of expensive. So I'm still kind of excited about how cheap a lot of these decks have become and how I think they can still compete with the meta. And I want to go ahead and go through my favorite budget options, and kind of depending, your definition of budget might change from person to person, but I'm looking for something where you can get the entire deck, main and extra, for under like 150 bucks. And that rules out a lot of things that you might consider budget, but yeah, I still think these are some really cool choices, and I also have some honorable mentions because this is not every budget option. It's just some of my favorites. All right, so I have SP up here because SP is now super cheap, and that was kind of gatekeeping a lot of budget decks. I guess the Megatins made SP cheap. I don't know how much SP was between Megatins and Rarity Collection 3, but anyway, now that SP is available, like the total cost of a lot of decks have gone down, and it kind of makes a lot more things fit into that $100 to $150 range. And I'm also going to give a couple decks here that are like $50 complete, main, extra, like 50 bucks. So I think let's actually start maybe in like ascending price order. We'll start with the cheapest deck I think that you can get and still fit in this budget discussion, and that's going to be Pearly. People have been talking about Pearly as a budget deck since everything got reprinted in what did it get reprinted in? The Megatins and Rarity Collection 1. But there's literally not a card in here that's over $5, I don't think. Like, maybe Infinite Impermanence. How much are those nowadays? But the entire extra deck is cheap. It used to be the most expensive card, was SP Little Knight. There's Relinquished Anima, but they reprinted E-Pearly Noir. X-Pearly Noir is cheap. The entire main deck is just Engine, and it's cheap. It's just Engine and hand traps. Arguably, you play Fenrir, which can run you, I think it's about 12 bucks a copy for the cheapest version, which was the original Ultra Rares. But if you're not playing Fenrir, then just play more hand traps or play whatever. I'm not really sure what kind of engine you're playing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the entire Pearly deck, main and extra, you can get for about $50. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, I'll just talk about Pearly first. The second deck that I think is a cool budget deck that I also think is like 50 bucks total is Melodious. The only expensive cards that used to be were First Movement Solo, which was a couple bucks, and Schuberta, because they were played and not reprinted in a long time, but they're reprinted in Rarity Collection 3. So basically, the most expensive card in Melodious right now is Herald of the Orange Light. Everything else is dirt cheap. It's just like 25 engine cards plus 15 hand traps, basically. And then your entire extra deck, is also Melodious cards, so you don't have to worry about picking up a whole lot of generic stuff. So for the lowest tier, like the lowest price tier on the budget list, I like Pearly and Melodious. Now let's move up a little bit, slightly more expensive, but still quite affordable. My next favorite deck is going to be Kashtira itself, pure Kashtira, like Fenrir's, Unicorns. Kashtira Theosis is a few bucks, but basically your Kashtira deck consists of the cash monsters themselves, plus a whole bunch of non-engine, which is fairly cheap, depending on what kind of non-engine you want to play. The deck doesn't play Impulse. It plays Shifter, which is nice. But, you know, I don't know. If you've been around my channel a while, you know that I'm a fan of the pure Kashtira deck. So I'm always here to hype it up. But yeah, I really like this deck as a budget option. It kind of just depends on what you want to pair it with and what kind of non-engine you're going to play. But you know, if you're not going to play the Charmies because you're on a budget, there's still so many good non-engine to pick from. And even if you want to play Thrust right now, that was one of the cards that was making it a little bit more expensive, but now Thrust is cheap too because it was in the Rarity Collection 3. So yeah, I like Kashtira, whether it's just a package in other decks or the whole Kashtira deck itself. I would estimate the whole Kashtira deck would cost you about $100 total. So it's, you know, a step up from the other guys, but I do like it a little bit better. Another deck that's going to run you about $100 total, I think. Yeah, I don't see why not, is going to be Sky Striker. Yeah, like there was the hype from the YCS a few weeks ago where Ryan Yu got second place. Or I guess that was a couple months ago now, but I don't, when was that? That was YCS Niagara. That was, I don't know, a month ago, whatever. But there's no expensive cards left in Sky Striker, I don't think. Thrust was the most expensive card. That card's cheap now. Droplet is fairly cheap. Triple Tactics Talent's pretty cheap. The only extra deck card that it played that was expensive was SP Little Knight. Maybe Typhon, because you play that card. Maybe that card is still a few dollars, but I mean, overall, I think I would guess around $100. I didn't do like too much price research on these decks, but I can't think of any cards in Sky Striker that's going to break the bank. Plus, they don't even play Impulse or the Charmies if you're trying to follow Ryan Yu's lead. So yeah, I think it's a cool budget option, and if you don't want to pay for the expensive hand trap staples right now, play Sky Striker because they don't want to play them anyway. The next deck, it's probably, well, it depends what version you build, but it's like $75 to $100 is going to be Lab. Labyrinth now has all of its cards reprinted with like a couple exceptions. So the Welcome Trap cards are cheap. They got reprinted in the Megatons and like a whole bunch of other times. So I think the most expensive one is like $3 or $4 a piece. The monsters are all dirt cheap. The only expensive trap card is Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, which runs you about $8 a copy. And this is where you get into a little bit of a nuance, right? It depends if you want to play the pure trap build with like 4 monsters and 36 traps, or if you want to play the furniture build. Because the furniture build introduces a couple other costs that you have to consider. First of all, transaction rollback is like an $8 card, I want to say. So in addition to your good traps, you might have to pick up rollbacks. And then also in the extra deck, the furniture build is a little bit more extra deck reliant. So you might have to play Chaos Angel to get the optimal version. So that can drive the price up quite a bit. But if you want to play the pure trap version where it's just like, I don't know, yeah, your 4 monsters, 5 monsters, whatever, and then 30 whatever traps, I think that version is actually going to be your cheapest bet, because I think most trap cards are cheap except for this one. So yeah, that's going to kind of close out that tier of budget. And now I want to get into probably the most expensive deck that is on this list, but compared to how much it's cost in the past, I really like it as a kind of more budget option. And that's going to be Rescue Ace. Because Witch got reprinted, and, you know, Wanted. This deck is now for the main deck only. If you're playing just pure Rescue Ace, it's probably... I don't know. I mean, for the Rescue Ace package plus the Black Witch package, it's probably $70 or so is my guess, because original is still expensive. It's like $12. Witches are $3-4 a piece. Wanteds are $3-4 a piece. And then Hydrants are $8 a piece or so. But then all of the other Rescue Ace cards are just bulk. Like, they are like cents. They're not even dollars, right? So that's really clutch. Now, of course, you can make this deck expensive. You can play Dominus Impulse. You can play the Azamina version, and that's going to drive your price up, and it's not going to be a budget deck anymore. It's going to be borderline a meta deck, right? But I think the pure-ish, the Rescue Ace deck with just the Black Witch and whatever non-engine is still a really solid option, and it's kind of cheap now. Unfortunately, there's one extra deck piece that's very expensive in this deck still, and that's going to be your Raging Phoenix, which is about 40 bucks. And that's absurd, and it's bound to get reprinted sometime, right? But realistically, I think you can win without this card. This card is for the OTK, you know, if you are set up for that, the Zealantis OTK. But you could play without it and still have a really good time and good experience, I think. So Rescue Ace is going to round out my list. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a Phantoms YGO channel if we didn't throw in a little Plunder Patrol love. It's my favorite deck. It's dirt cheap. You can get the entire main and extra deck for 50 bucks maybe. And that's just, you know, mostly hand trap cost. The entire Plunder engine is dirt cheap. Of course, if you want to play the Fiendsmith version, it's not budget anymore because these are 50 bucks a piece. But I'm not even sure the Fiendsmith version is the best version. So just play pure Plunder. 3 of each Plunder monster, 3 field spell, 3 Potted Desires, 3 of every hand trap that you want to play, and that's it. And you're in there. Like, SP is cheap. This whole deck you can play main and extra for $50. So gotta throw in the Plunder Patrol shout out. Let me know what you think. What's your favorite budget deck? There's a lot more that I didn't list, but these are some of my favorites that I wanted to draw attention to. Let me know in the comments below if you're gonna play any of these or if you like any of these. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll see you soon.